I was saying y'all your boy Rico from RicoScores, and how does it feel, Commanders Nation? I know we just took a mean little L today, even though there were some bright spots in there, and I'll talk about it in my game review video, but that's what we're not here for today. That will be another day, probably tomorrow or something like that. But how does it feel to have the second overall pick in the 2024 NFL draft right now? I'm super excited. We just finally surpassed the Cardinals. The Cardinals went all the way from second to fourth with them beating the Eagles today. So that was a win-win for all of us. The Eagles lose, haha, laugh at them. And then also the Cardinals beating them, moved them from second to fourth. We were already third ahead of the Patriots because of a strength of schedule tiebreaker. We're going to dive into all of that, like what all of that means, strength of schedule, what teams we need to be rooting for to win so that we keep that strength of schedule tie against the Patriots, because it's not whether or not like who beat who when it comes to draft pick order. Just because we beat the Patriots and we have the same record, that has nothing to do with anything. It's all about strength of schedule. And if you have the weaker strength of schedule, the NFL is basically looking at it as you have the same record as this guy, but your schedule is easier. Well, you deserve the higher draft pick. And as of right now, the NFL is pitying us based on their rules, and we have the second overall pick in the draft ahead of the Patriots. Again, we're going to dive into all of that. We're going to take a look at all of the top draft prospects real quick to see who we potentially have the ability to draft. Do we even have a chance at Caleb Williams? We're going to take a look at trade up and trade back examples and scenarios as well. We're going to take a look at the draft trade value chart and see exactly what it will take to naturally move from second overall pick to first overall pick with the Bears, which is quite likely because they may want to keep Justin Fields and may be willing to trade down just from 1 to 2, gain an additional draft pick and take the guy they already wanted to get, which is a win-win for both parties. Not saying that that's very likely to happen. I think it's quite likely that, you know, just off of organizational pressure, just to like, if you don't take Caleb Williams, he balls out, if Justin Fields gets hurt again or he's not good, then that's like a fireable offense for that whole regime, GM, head coach, and everything. And I think they won't even necessarily risk it. Just go ahead and take Caleb Williams and trade away Justin Fields to somebody else for maybe like even a second round pick potentially, because he's shown a lot of flashes. But either way, we're going to take a look at all of the different scenarios and different examples of what we could do if we trade up from second to 1, and also if we want to trade back from the second overall pick to a later pick where we're still in range to potentially get like an Olu Fashanu at tackle, Brock Bowers at tight end, or whatever. We're going to take a look at some real life examples that have happened in trade backs in the NFL from the second overall pick to wherever they landed. So before we dive into all of that, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned because so much content on the way, man. So many videos. Again, the videos I'm super excited about that I did a lot of research on. There's going to be a really fun experimental video giving y'all a big time update that I think y'all are going to be excited about, because when I saw this, I was like, wow, I did not know that. So I'm super excited about that. And so that video is on the way as well. I'll probably put that out tomorrow, maybe Tuesday. We'll see. Also, of course, happy New Year's to everybody. Make sure y'all safe out there and all of that. So let's go ahead and get to this video. Let's get it. All right, so now the draft order is officially, as of right now, we still have some 8 p.m. games. Things could change. We still have a whole nother week of football. Things could change. But as of right now, 7:16 p.m. while I'm recording this, the Bears have the number 1 overall pick from the Cardinals, which is crazy because the Cardinals don't even have a first round pick. They weren't even tanking. They were literally just that bad this season. They already knew coming into the season that they don't have a first round pick. And so they literally had nothing to gain from only winning 2 games, and they still only won 2 games. That's how ugly that situation is over there in Carolina. A lot of people think our situation is bad. That's even worse. But you have the Bears with the first overall pick from the Panthers, and then you also have the Commanders second, the Patriots third, the Cardinals fourth, the Giants fifth, and the Titans sixth. And right now we are only ahead of the Patriots because of a strength of schedule advantage that we have over them. Our strength of schedule is a little bit weaker. And like I already explained before the intro, if you have the same record as somebody else and your schedule was a little bit easier than the other team, they're going to be like, well, yeah, you deserve to pick more because you were the worst team technically. So right now, if you're going even further back, you have the Chargers 7th, Jets 8th. The Falcons have now moved to 9th, which makes me upset. I hope they somehow lose their draft pick for some crazy reason. And then the Bears also have another draft pick, 10th. So the Bears could potentially end up making some serious moves in this draft with the first overall pick and 10th, whether they want to keep Justin Fields and then build around him, or if they want to trade Justin Fields, get Caleb Williams, or whoever they want at quarterback first, and then still have the ammo to get another elite player to build around that quarterback. Maybe a tackle, maybe Joel falls there, maybe one of those elite wide receivers that isn't Marvin Harrison Jr., like a Malik Neighbors, or even maybe Brock Bowers slides that far with the injuries that he's had to deal with and things like that. So the Bears are sitting pretty right now with the situations that they've had. I mean, the fact that they netted DJ Moore and all kinds of stuff from that trade, that's just ridiculous. The Bears definitely have a bright future ahead of themselves right now. But again, let me just go ahead and finalize that the fact that it is impossible for us to get the number 1 overall pick at this point. The Carolina Panthers are 2-14. We only have 1 game left. There's a 2-game gap between us and them and anybody else at minimum. So they have that number 1 pick on lock. It's official. It's a done data. But right now, the 2nd overall pick is our best case scenario and also our most likely scenario. So thank goodness for that. And if you're looking at our entire draft order right now, and again, this may change by the time a lot of y'all are even watching this video, but later on tonight, tomorrow, January 1st, whatever. Right now, we have the 2nd overall pick in the 1st round, the 36th and the 41st overall picks in the 2nd round. Beautiful. Again, that 41st one is coming from the Bears from Montez Sweat. That's lovely. That's a beautiful pick to have right there. So 1 first, 2 high seconds, and then also 2 thirds, a 67th overall, and then we have that compensatory one for Chase Young. And I thought that Chase Young trade, I was a little upset about it because I just felt like that draft pick we got in return was pretty low. But there's the injury history. And then also, even though the 49ers just dog walked us, that game ended up being nowhere near as bad as I thought it would. But either way, that game didn't really feel close. At least as close as the score showed, but it's not even like Chase Young did anything. No sacks. I think he had like 1 tackle. So now that draft pick is starting to look like a potential steal. When we first did it, I was like, man, Chase Young right now is top 8 in pass rush win rate and things like that. I was expecting him to go to the 49ers and ball out. And he's had flashes, but I feel like he played better with us this season than he's been playing with them since he's been with them, which is really weird. But either way, we have 2 third-round picks, a 67th and then that 100th, which is technically a compensatory pick from the 49ers that they got from the previous offseason. And then 4th round, we have the 102nd overall pick. The 5th round, we have the 138th overall pick. 6th round, we have the 179th. And then the 7th round, we have the 219th. So we're good to go, man. We are good to go. We have 9 draft picks as of right now. If we want to trade back and gain more, we can easily do that with the draft capital that we have, because in every round, we have a top, at worst, 4 pick somewhere in there. It's beautiful. In the 1st round, top 2 pick. In the 2nd round, top 4 pick. And like another top 10 pick in that 2nd round. In the 3rd round, a top 3 pick. In the 4th round, a top 2 pick. In the 5th round, a top 4 pick. In the 6th round, a top 3 pick. And in the 7th round, a top 2 pick as well. So our draft picks, some people would argue that our 2nd round pick is almost up there with like a really late 1st and things like that. Our 3rd round pick is a really late 2nd. So, hey, man, we can make some moves if we really want to go that route. But also, if you want to just go ahead and draft guys, stay put where we are in the draft, we have the potential to do that. And I'm hoping, and I'm very optimistic that this next regime led by Eugene Shin and Josh Ayers so far, and the potential GM and head coach that they bring in, will do a great job of evaluating talent and getting some real ballers, because it's not even just the 1st round, dog. Do y'all see what the Lions have done just after 1 draft? They're not the best team in the NFC, but they're doing a lot of great things. Ben Johnson and a lot of those guys are putting in great work, but they also did a great job scouting talent and developing talent. But also, look at the Rams, man. Puka is over there going stupid. 1,445 receiving yards, 29 yards shy of the rookie record. And we still have a whole nother game to play. He'll more than likely break that. And then you have Kobe Turner, 9 sacks as an interior defender, leads all rookies. And then Byron Young has 7 sacks, tied 2nd among rookies with Will Anderson Jr. from Alabama, who a lot of people thought was like this generational pass rusher type of guy. And none of those guys I just listed were taken with a top 75 pick. So imagine that with our top 75 picks that we have, and we have 4 of them, we can use those 4 top 75 picks, get some elite ballers, some starters, some impactful players, some game changers, hopefully not just game managers, because like I said, like I keep joking about, but it's kind of true. We have game managers all across the board. It feels like even outside of the quarterback position, we have a lot of game managers, not a lot of guys that take over games and make plays when we need them the most. When we need that one catch to win the game, it just seems like it doesn't feel like we have that guy. Terry McLaurin has those moments, but then again, he wasn't getting a lot of opportunities until Jacoby Brissett started to play. But again, hopefully we can get some elite players with those 4 top 75 picks. And then if we could do what the Rams do, if our front office and scouting department and development department, a lot of people forget that it's not just scouting, it's development as well. You got to draft the players, but you also got to develop them. If they can go crazy and we have 4 top 75 picks and we can pull in a haul like that after the top 75, oh man, we can get busy. We could turn this thing right around and be one of those teams that goes from being really bad to really great really soon. I mean, look what the 49ers did. They had that second overall pick with Nick Bosa. It's kind of like a fork in the road. We had a second overall pick with Chase Young. We went the complete opposite way. The 49ers took their second overall pick and went the right way. I'm hoping we take that route rather than what we did with the Chase Young route. Even though Nick Bosa is pretty injury prone as well, they just built the organization the right way, made the right trades and all of that type of stuff. Seems like once Martin Mayhew left the 49ers, they got better, and ever since he joined the Burgundy and Gold, we got worse. Hey, man, that wasn't a fair trade, 49ers. We want our get back for that one. But also, man, just to warn you, strength of schedule fluctuates. Just to go ahead and warn you, so you never know. By this time next week, depending on what happens, not even just between us and the Patriots, even if the Patriots and the Commanders lose next week, just like they did this week, and we have the same exact record again by the end of the regular season, the Patriots could potentially skip ahead of us in draft pick order just based on who our opponent's schedules are at that point. So things could get interesting. Strength of schedule fluctuates. Like, for example, before these 4 p.m. games, our strength of schedule was almost like deadlock. Like, we had a .51481 strength of schedule. They had a .51493 strength of schedule. Like, less than .001 difference. Like, that's incredible how close that was, that we barely had the second overall pick. But now, after a lot of the 4 p.m. games have ended, we now have a .513 strength of schedule, and the Patriots have a .5171. So, hey, man, things can change in a heartbeat. You never know. But right now, if anything, that's helping us. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. All of the stuff that just went down right now, this week, we need to be rooting for the Steelers to beat Seattle, which happened, and that helps us a lot because we lost to Seattle, and then the Patriots also played the Steelers, so that's 2 stars. That affects us both. Like, it makes the Patriots' strength of schedule look better, and it makes ours worse. Most scenarios is just only one of us played one of those teams, like the Chargers and Denver Broncos. We didn't play either of those teams. The reason we were rooting for the Chargers because the Patriots played somebody in that matchup between the Chargers and the Broncos, and if the Chargers won, that makes the Patriots' strength of schedule even better as well, and that would increase the gap between us. And the same thing with the Kansas City Chiefs and the Bengals. We didn't play the Bengals or the Kansas City Chiefs. The Patriots did, and if the Chiefs won, which it looks like they're going to end up winning, it looks like it's already a done deal, that helps us as well. That's 1 star. And then week 18, we got to root for the Colts to beat the Texans. We got to root for the Packers to beat the Bears. We got to root for and then that's a win-win, because the Bears losing also helps us get that second round pick we got from Montez Sweat move up a little bit as well. Thank goodness. We need the Raiders to beat the Broncos. We need the Steelers to beat the Ravens, which I highly doubt happens. And if New Orleans beats the Falcons, that's another 2-star. That's a win-win. And that's a monumental shift in strength of schedule that's in our favor. So those are all possible, man. It's looking like we're holding this down. After the 4 p.m. games, the gap got even a little bit wider. And I'm very confident that we probably will end up with the second overall pick when it's all said and done. It's still ugly. It's not a done deal, but yeah, it looks like the Broncos beat the Chargers, so that sucks for us. But the Chiefs beat the Bengals, and the Steelers beating the Seahawks all helps us a lot. That's 3 stars in our favor versus the Patriots getting 1 star in their favor. So that's why that gap increased to a .004 gap from, it was even less than that, even less than .001 at one point. But right now, shouts out to All Galdi, because I completely agree. Commanders versus Dallas Cowboys in week 18 sets up as the biggest must-lose game in Washington history. The number 2 overall pick in the 2020 NFL draft is right there. Come on, guys. You've lost so often and in such spectacular fashion. Just one more. I completely completely agree. Nothing to gain from winning that game. Also, shouts out to Kevin Sheehan for pointing this out. Dallas is a 13.5 favorite at Washington, and they need to win this game. Like, they have to. Like, this is like the NFC East division on the line, like potential bye week type of stuff. Hey man, Cowboys win, Eagles lose, man, it could get real ugly for the Eagles, and it could be really beneficial to the Cowboys. So they're not resting their starters. They want to win that game just as much as they wanted to win that Thanksgiving game, and we saw how that went. Also, luckily for us, the Patriots are a 2-point favorite at home over the Jets. So if the Patriots win one more game, we can throw all of this strength of schedule stuff out the window, and that's quite possible. I mean, I didn't think the Cardinals could beat the Eagles, and they did. It's even more likely that the Patriots beat the Jets, and right now they're the betting favorites to do that. But before we get into all of the fun and greatness of us having this number 2 overall pick, let's also acknowledge the fact that, man, we got to have some empathy towards the players, because losing sucks when you're a part of the losing. Commanders left tackle Cornelius Lucas, our starting left tackle today because Charles Leno was hurt. Andrew Wiley was out as well, so Trent Scott started at right tackle. But he was asked by JP Finley how difficult the season has been. He said, quote, really tough. Losing kind of wears on you when you put so much into it. When you take into account the offseason, all the reps you take then, and all of the sprints you can run, all of the plans you have for all of the success you want to have, for it not to come to fruition, it gets tougher and tougher each week. It kind of steals your joy at some points. We have to acknowledge these things. Us having the number 2 overall pick isn't just a win-win across the board. These players are frustrated. They're sick to their stomach. Poor guys, man. You gotta feel for them. I feel like we just need to take some time out of our day, out of this video, to acknowledge that. Even Terry McLaurin, one of the faces of our franchise, talked about it. On the difficulty of seeing a team like San Francisco with players on that team he knows playing for a Super Bowl while Washington is out of playoff contention. It's a long quote, but Terry McLaurin said, quote, it's definitely tough. I mean, you want to be a part of something that's sustainable and you're winning and competing at a high level. You know, they've got a great staff over there. They've got great players. You can tell that they love playing together. They do a great job of getting everybody involved. Defense is flying around. They have fun. They have fun. When you say another team is having fun, you're insinuating that your team doesn't. So that means every day that he wakes up, goes to practice, has to work out, run laps, do those extra push-ups, extra weights and things like that, just to get any slight edge on becoming a better player. Is basically all for nothing, and they're not even having fun doing it. They're waking up, and football right now feels like a job. He also says, you know what I mean? The kind of culture they have and everything. I really got to be around them, and it kind of reminds me a little bit at Ohio State. So now poor Terry McLaurin is reminiscing like, yeah, man, a lot of my buddies from Ohio State are on the 49ers doing their thing, and it seems like we went completely opposite career paths right now. Chase Young just recently joined the 49ers, but him and his Ohio State brethren, I mean, he still got Terry McLaurin over here with him, but like Nick Bosa and a lot of those guys on the 49ers having a good old time competing. The games matter in December. They have something to look forward to in January and potentially even February, whereas Terry McLaurin is waking up every day and essentially having to clock in and go to work. And that's it. No fun, no goals, no hopes, no dreams, no nothing. And Chase Young, who's also on the 49ers, also Ohio State with Terry McLaurin. Chase Young basically said the same thing when Chase Young first got traded to the 49ers. He had his first press conference, and it sounded like he was throwing a lot of shots at us, and he kind of was, but at the same time, he wasn't lying. Montez Sweat, when he went to the Bears, spoke a lot of the same stuff as well. So there is a downside. I feel like that needs to be acknowledged. As a guy that wants a high draft pick, me, Rico of RicoScores, I still want to take the time to at least give those guys a thought, a prayer, or something for what they've been through this season, because they deserve better. Hopefully this next regime comes in, fixes all of this, and then football can be fun again. But you know why football can potentially be fun again? Because we are potentially a great GM candidate landing spot, head coach, and all of that. Again, Josh Harris and a lot of owners that are looking for potential new GMs and things like that went to this GM summit. It was like 42 potential top GM candidates there, and it was reported that Josh Harris and David Tepper were the most active and made the biggest impressions on a lot of those top GMs. So if it's us two as the top 2 GM destinations, potentially just based off of our owners, but there's a lot of other factors. There's draft picks. Second overall pick makes that beautiful. There's cap space. I'm doing a video on that. That's amazing as well. We're clicking on all cylinders there. Top market, all of that. Like, we have so many things going for us. And if it's Josh Harris versus David Tepper for the best GM landing spot this upcoming offseason, we win hands down. I mean, we already won, I felt like, even since back then. But then today, while the Panthers got blown out by the Jaguars, David Tepper threw a temper tantrum and threw his drink at Jaguars fans that were sitting in front of him. Like, why would you want to go work for an owner like that? that has that much of a volatile personality. You never know. That man was telling the Panthers head coaches and coaching staff what to do, how to develop quarterbacks, what plays to call, the biggest meddler of all time, dog. Like, Dan Snyder's terrible, and I would still argue that Dan Snyder's worse than David Tepper overall, especially off the field. But I've never seen Dan Snyder purposely throw a drink at fans of an opponent fan base because they were beating his team. Like, that's crazy. That's something even Dan Snyder hasn't done. And the main thing I thought about, like, does Roger Goodell even have like the gall to fine or suspend David Tepper? Like, how does that work? But again, I feel like we are most certainly one of the best situations for a new regime to take over, especially with Eugene Shin here, and how, like I've already explained, I did a full over 30-minute breakdown on what he brings to this team as far as analytical models for on the field stuff, coaching staff stuff, and also player development and personnel decision stuff, who we draft, free agency, what positions we prioritize, trade back, trade up, all of that type of stuff. And everywhere he's been, those teams are elite. The Dolphins, Ravens, and Jaguars, look at them, the number one seeds in all of their respective positions. And I'm not saying Eugene Shin is the sole ownership of credit for all of that, but he definitely deserves a lot of credit for a lot of those situations that those teams are in. The Ravens even admitted ever since he's been gone, and it's been a few years now, they still use a lot of his analytical models. So I'm very optimistic about what he's going to bring to this team. On top of the fact that we potentially are going to have a number 2 overall draft pick, you know, a new regime is going to want to come in and bring their quarterback, get a whole new quarterback, even if it's like a free agent, but more than likely draft a guy. It's very rare that they ever want to keep the guy that's already there as their starting quarterback. Even if the guy's pretty decent, it's like an ego thing. It's politics. There's a lot to it that they just want to get their own guy. So with the number 2 overall pick, you have a very high chance of being able to do that. And there's even a chance that you may be able to even get the number 1 quarterback potentially that a lot of people feel like is Caleb Williams in this draft. But let's go ahead and get to that right now. Draft prospects wise, we have, number 2 overall pick. Take your pick, man. Marvin Harrison Jr., Caleb Williams, Olu Fashanu, Brock Bowers, Joe Alt, Drake May, J.C. Latham, Laiatu Latu, if you want to go edge rusher, along with Jared Verse, Dallas Turner, Malik Neighbors, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Amarius Mims, Jaden Daniels, Keon Coleman, Nate Wiggins. Make your pick. Cooper DeJean, make your pick. We have all of those guys as options. And if you want to trade back, you still have a lot of those guys as options even after that. Now, highly doubt this happens. Let me go ahead and preface this with the fact that I highly doubt this happens, but I'm not saying it's impossible that Caleb Williams could fall and not be the first quarterback taken, and there will be their number 2 to get him, because you never know. Jaden Daniels had arguably the best season out of any quarterback this past season, won the Heisman for a reason against better competition in SEC versus what Caleb Williams and Drake May had to go against in the Pac-12 in the ACC. And then some team, number 1 overall pick, maybe the Bears, or maybe a team trades up past us to get that Bears pick, number 1 overall. Maybe they fall in love with Drake May's measurables, because Drake May has those type of measurables where it's like, oh yeah, this is the franchise quarterback guy with the height, the arm strength, the arm talent. His pro day is going to be incredible. One of the best pro days we've probably ever seen when he has it. All of that type of stuff. Because you got to remember, Caleb Williams is like, what, 6'1", I think? Caleb Williams is like 6'1" and not that big, so a lot of people may be worried about that as the draft process goes. But because people are going to overthink it. Yeah, he's 6'1", 217 pounds right now, maybe 220. He's not a big guy. He's honestly like 1 inch taller than Sam Howell, and we already complained about him getting balls batted down. Maybe there's a certain team out there that just, whoever ends up picking number 1, whether it's the Bears or somebody else trading for it, maybe they just don't value quarterbacks under 6'3". You never know. Highly doubt it, because to me, Caleb Williams is the best quarterback prospect in this draft. Me being Rico of Street Scores feels like Caleb Williams is the best. Jaden Daniels is probably my number 2, but Caleb Williams is still, I feel like it's just a lot of draft prospect fatigue, and we're just so tired of Caleb Williams being the best prospect in the draft that we're just going to have arguments about, well, maybe somebody's better, just off of like we're bored, or even like ESPN or other sports websites are, trying to clickbait and say that Caleb Williams is not the best draft prospect, and then we're going to get to the draft, he's going to be the best draft prospect. But I'm just letting you know why it's not impossible. Drake made measurables. Jaden Daniels, the season he had against the SEC opponents that he went against, stuff like that. Never know. Maybe somebody falls in love with one of those other guys. Now, let's take a look at scenarios. If we wanted to trade up to the number 1 overall pick for a quarterback, most likely Caleb Williams, according to the NFL trade value chart, going from 2nd overall to 1st overall would cost a mid-2nd round pick. That's not a lot. And for reasons I've already explained, that's quite likely that the Bears want to do that. If they end up wanting to stick with Justin Fields, which I doubt, I think they're leaning towards taking quarterback. Again, for reasons I've already explained, organizational pressure. I mean, the worst case scenario, if you keep Justin Fields compared to the worst case scenario, if you take Caleb Williams, that Justin Fields one is way worse. That's literally fireable. If Caleb Williams balls out and Justin Fields just doesn't, for whatever reason, injuries, whatever. So I just feel like naturally they're going to play it safe. Getting Caleb Williams is playing it safe. But you gamble by keeping Justin Fields and then using those picks to build around Justin Fields. That's the gamble. That's the highest ceiling potentially. That's the potential to be the best result out of it. But I think they're going to play it safe. But either way, going from second to first costs a mid-second round pick. The reason why the second overall pick is so important, because if we had the third overall pick instead of the second, instead of having to give up a mid-second round pick to go to first overall, we would have to give up a mid-first round pick to go up to first overall. It may be even worse. You never know, because this is just the NFL draft value trade chart and things like that. These are just statistics. These are just a model that people have come up with. When it comes to actual trades going down, when those actual phone calls are happening, things get a little weird. And that draft value trade chart, it's a reference, but it's not the end all be all. So be careful with that. Now, as far as trading back wise, and Eugene Shin likes to do that. Again, in my breakdown of Eugene Shin, which is literally 37 minutes and 13 seconds of a full breakdown, literally just about him. So go check that out if you haven't, because that's one of my videos I'm probably the most proud of. I'm not going to lie. He said in that video that 2 later picks is better than 1 earlier one. So we are quite likely to trade back. But I feel like we more than likely won't, just simply because when you have the number 2 overall pick and you could potentially get a great quarterback, you just don't trade back from that. But any other scenario, like say we had like a top 7 pick, like the 6th or 7th pick, I think we were very likely to trade back, possibly. Or especially if we had like the 13th pick or 14th pick, very, even more likely that we were to trade back. With the number 2 overall pick, as much as Eugene Shin likes to trade back, I don't think you take that risk. You go ahead and get your quarterback, because they're going to want to get their quarterback. Again, I'm not here to debate anymore about whether it's Sam Howell or draft quarterback. The next regime is getting their next quarterback. Even if Sam Howell balled out this season, the next regime has every right to get another guy that they want completely. Like, it's completely up to them. Even if Sam Howell had like an MVP caliber season, or not even just that great, but just good enough to take us to the playoffs, the next regime has every right to replace him with a draft quarterback. Now, if we made the playoffs, we wouldn't have the draft pick to potentially get that guy, and Sam Howell would probably just end up staying here by default for another year just because of that. But Sam Howell, whether it's his fault, Eric Bieniemy, whoever, overall, he just wasn't good enough to make sure we couldn't get that next quarterback. We can argue about whether we should, but the fact that we can, because we've lost so many games with him at quarterback, again, a lot of blame to go everywhere, offensive line, Eric Bieniemy, whatever. At the end of the day, we're going quarterback. I'm not here to debate whether it's Sam Howell or quarterback. Now we're to the point where which quarterback is it going to be? Because again, the next regime has every right to come in and get their own guy. I don't care what's going on. I don't care how good Sam Howell played. I would be screaming for us to keep Sam Howell, but at the end of the day, I'm going to trust the next regime to make the right decisions, and they have every right to come in and get their own guy regardless. So if you're looking at trade back scenarios, if we wanted to trade back, but I highly doubt it, remember the San Francisco 49ers traded from 2 to 3. So if we wanted to, if Caleb Williams is gone, he was our number 1 guy, and we just wanted to trade back from 2 to 3 with the Patriots, let the Patriots go ahead and get the 2nd overall pick, and then we'll just take whatever quarterback or elite player is left, I guess. I don't know. That's a weird scenario, very specific scenario, one I highly doubt happens. But remember, the 49ers gained the number 3 overall pick, only moved back 1 spot, and also got the 67th overall pick, the 111th and 70th. So those are just extra picks just from moving back 1 space. And that trade was so stupid, because the 49ers never planned on getting Mitchell Trubisky anyway, so I don't know why the Bears felt like they needed to do that, which set them back so far. They would be so much better right now if they didn't make that trade. So that's crazy. But also, remember back in 2016, the Cleveland Browns went from number 2 to number 8. And because of that, they got the 77th overall pick and the 100th overall pick in that draft. Then in 2017, they got a first rounder, which ended up being 12th overall. And in 2018, they got a 64th overall pick. So they netted a lot of great draft capital right there just to move from 2nd to 8. And if we were to do that in this draft, you could still be in range of an elite tackle or an elite playmaker like a Brock Bowers or maybe a Joe Alt, because I feel like Olu Fashanu will probably be gone by then, or maybe an elite receiver, whatever, or an elite edge rusher if you want to replace Chase Young and Montez Sweat. You have your options there, and you could potentially net a 3rd round pick, a 4th round pick. I think those are both 3rd round picks and an additional 3rd. So those are technically like 3/3 and a 1st basically from that. That's the draft that the Eagles ended up getting Carson Wentz because they traded up from 8 to 2. And then also in 2012, I know this stings to bring it up. I hate to have to do this, but remember, we went from 6 to 2. We gave the Rams our 6th overall pick, the 39th overall pick, the 22nd, and the 2nd. So we gave them 3 firsts and a 2nd for us to just move up from 6 to 2. So if we wanted to move back from 2 to 6, we could potentially net 3 first-round picks and a 2nd round pick if you want to do that. And hey, man, if Caleb Williams is gone, and this organization only loves Caleb Williams, they don't like Jaden Daniels and Drake May, even though I would personally go ahead and take them, I guess, if you want to go quarterback there. But if they just only love Caleb Williams and that's it, and he's gone, and they want to trade back, if we could pull in a haul like that, oh man, please pull that trigger. 3 firsts and a 2nd just to move back 4 spots and to still be in range for potentially Joe Alt and Brock Bowers. Come on, dog. Like, that's big stuff right there. That's big stuff. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please stiff on that like button, stiff on the subscription button, and stiff on the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. I appreciate all the support, man. Shouts out to all of y'all. Shouts out my boy Ladero. My boy Ladero, even though I didn't get a chance to stream today because I've been super busy all day, my boy Ladero was still donating for the touchdowns that we got as the Commander. So shouts out my boy Ladero for that. Gotta shout you out for that. I wasn't even doing my job and you was still on yours. I wasn't even at my best. I wasn't able to stream and you still donated for the touchdowns. Man of his word, I appreciate that. Shouts out to all y'all, to the channel members. Again, I'm working on exclusive content for y'all, especially a lot of draft stuff. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be really fun. We're going to take a look at like guys like Caleb Williams, all of that type of stuff. And of course, if you're channel members, you're already paying to be a channel member. None of those videos will have any ads. You can watch it straight through, clean, all of that. So go become a channel member if you haven't already. Super excited to start on that because y'all know me, man. The off season is arguably my favorite part of the season. Now, me being a Commanders fan and us not having a lot to root for in the regular season, but having all of this hope in the off season, maybe that has something to do with it a little bit, but I'm just naturally a GM because even for my Georgia Bulldogs, as great as we are, I'm not gonna lie, I'm more excited about recruiting and watching high school tape and the whole process, people coming in for visits, than I even am with watching a lot of the games that we play. Not every game, because what we did to Florida State, now that was poetic. Now I prefer that, but I'm just a natural GM. I just love that type of stuff. So I'm saying all of that to say, on that rant I went on, that even though this season is basically over for the Commanders, it is not over for Rico of Street Scores. I still have so much content to come out with that I should still be coming out with at least 1 video a day. We're gonna start doing the call-in shows again, so stay tuned for that. And of course, let me know in the comment section how you feel about all of this discussed in this video. Let me know if you want to trade up from 2 to 1 or if you prefer to trade back. All of that type of stuff. And are you excited about us having the number 2 overall pick? And yeah, man, that's it. I'll catch y'all later. Have a happy new year. I'm out.